America houses 4.4% of the world's population, but we also house more than 25% of the world's prison population. We have one of the highest mass incarceration rates in the world. Why? Many people believe that our high prison rates started in the 1970s when President Nixon enacted the war on drugs. The war on drugs was enacted to place harsher sentences on drug dealers and users, and many governors followed suit. Drug users and dealers could face 15 years up to life in prison, and the war on drugs became a catalyst for our high prison rates. Our mass incarceration system currently is not effective because it is not only costly to us as taxpayers, but it does nothing to reduce crime and poverty rates. So instead of focusing on mass incarceration, I would instead like to focus on alternative ways we can punish these nonviolent offenders without secluding them from society for a long amount of time. I would also like to go over why these alternative ways would be beneficial to us as citizens and taxpayers. In addition to our high mass incarceration rates, America also has a very large recidivism rate. Recidivism occurs when offenders are placed in prison for a long amount of time, they are secluded from society, and when they are released, they do not have the proper social, work, or life skills to integrate back into society properly. It is very hard for a criminal to find friends, housing, or family without these skills. So within 5 years, about 76.6% of American criminals tend to reoffend their crimes and be sent back to prison. And according to the Federal Bureau of Prisons, we have about 2.3 million adults in our prison system. 50% of them are nonviolent drug users and dealers, and about 10% of them are in prison for immigration-related crimes. That means us taxpayers, we are paying $40 billion for our state and federal prisons. We are paying $40 billion for more than half of our prison population to be nonviolent offenders. So most taxpayers are so tired of paying all this money for an ineffective incarceration system. So what are some alternative ways we can reduce our incarceration rates? According to Forbes.com, many members of the American Bar Association Task Force on Effective Criminal Sanctions agree that community action programs and parole programs would be beneficial in integrating prisoners back into society when they are released. According to crimesolutions.gov, they agree that drug alternative to prison programs are also very beneficial in reducing our recidivism rates. While these drug offenders and users are placed into rehabilitation programs and parole programs, they are allowed a chance to integrate back into society and contribute positively to our communities. Countries like Norway have restorative justice programs. With these programs, they focus more on fixing the problem at hand rather than punishing the offender. This results in a 20% recidivism rate in their country, and it has proved to be very beneficial to their country. These rehabilitation programs and parole programs would benefit us as taxpayers and citizens. On average, it costs about $80 a day to house an inmate, but only $4 a day to house a probationer. Enacting these rehabilitation programs would help us as citizens and taxpayers because it would cost less money for us. A Research Triangle Institute study found that in New York City alone, in 1 year, rehabilitation programs saved them $7 million. In Minnesota, if a prisoner who is released goes through rehabilitation programs, education, and job training, they are 20% less likely to be rearrested and recommit their crimes. And according to rehabs.com, when prisoners are released back into society with none of these programs, they are never guaranteed long-term solutions to their addiction or their problems. But when placed into these programs, they are helped with their sobriety and achieving sobriety. So it is time to recognize that our country has a problem, only housing 4.4% of the world's population, but housing 25% of the world's prison population isn't that great. Countries like Norway have restorative justice programs that prove to be very beneficial to their country, while they aren't paying billions and billions for their mass incarceration systems, while us Americans are paying about $40 billion for our mass incarceration systems, while stuffing prisoners into overcrowded systems. So it is time that we recognize that our mass incarceration system is not effective, that there are alternative ways to reduce the mass incarceration rates, and that they are beneficial to us as citizens and taxpayers. Thank you.